All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the Gordon Burnell Council meeting on May 21st. Um, we are going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Do I have a motion to call the meeting to order?
I
I
move to
motion.
call this meeting to order. Sorry, Ben.
Thanks, Tina. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ben. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Great. And thank you. Welcome, Cynthia, as well. As we get started, let's go ahead and do a quick roll call so that folks watching know who everyone is. My name is Martha Hughes. I am the Gordon Burnell Governance Council President. And I'll pass it off. We'll start with Deb.
I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me? Okay,
Yeah.
I'm Deb DeTore and I'm a member of the board and I love New York City and I'm going tomorrow.
Oh, wow. You can give Sammy some tips then. Yeah. And Chris.
Chris Cazone, I'm the principal at Gordon Burnell. I'm stepping in tonight for Beth, who may or may not join us depending on when she gets finished. But she's at a meeting with the Public Charter School of New Mexico and representing New Mexico Reza, which are the MRI schools. So if I screw up, just tell me you're screwing up and do this instead of that. But I'll try my best.
No worries. Thanks for leading us today, Chris. And Ben.
Ben Sparks, board member.
Yeah. And Tina.
Tina Martinez, board member.
Yeah. Sammy.
Sammy Marcus, business manager.
And Erica.
Erica Rivas, minutes recorder.
Thanks. And Cynthia.
Cynthia, board member.
All right. Thanks. And Chris, did you have the board documents you'd like to share? Or would you like me to share from my screen?
I have them. I can call them up. Should
Okay,
I
great.
start with the just the agenda?
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. So we'll take a quick look at this meeting agenda. Do I have a motion to approve today's agenda?
I move to approve today's agenda.
Thank you, Deb. And a second?
I second.
Thank you, Tina. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. We have approved today's agenda. It doesn't appear that we have any guests today for public comment. And there aren't any past business discussion items. So let's go ahead and pass off to Sammy for the business manager's report.
I'm sorry, the minutes for the last
Say that.
meeting for April 23rd.
Yeah, that's right. We usually do approve those last minutes. And now that I think about it, when I went through the documents, were those missing? Did other people see them from last month?
I didn't get them in the packet.
They were not.
Yeah. So that might be something we
Meet the table.
and go back and we'll approve them during the June meeting. Yeah, I didn't think about it until now. Like oh yeah, the minutes were missing. Do I have a motion to table the approval of last month's meeting minutes?
Martha, I don't know if we can take action because it's not on
Because
the,
it's not on there either. Yeah, that's right.
I have to bypass it and
Okay.
just make a note that we'll take action next month.
Yeah, that's interesting because usually it's always kind of on the templates. I'm not sure why it's not. Yeah, I guess there's nothing to table and we'll just get them in June. Thanks for bringing that up, Tina. All right, then we'll go ahead with the finance report.
Sammy, do you have documents to share?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Let me make sure it's still gonna let me. Yes, perfect. Alrighty, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
So we do have a pretty typical packet for the most part. We don't have any bars. I just want to remind everyone that we approved the blanket bar last month. So I am utilizing that right now to submit bars throughout the end of the year. to make sure that we're in compliance with all of our funds and functions. And then in the July meeting, if we have a July meeting, if not in the August meeting, I'll present all the bars that we used the blanket bar for, go over why we needed them. And so you guys can see how we use that bar or that blanket bar. So we'll go right into some of our graphs here. I always like to go over the projected budget balance. And so there are a few funds, again, that are over 100%. What happens is every time we run a payroll, it recalculates our encumbrances, and these funds are right now basically going to additional compensation. And so every time it's changing our encumbrance number. So every time it pushes it a little bit more over or a little bit under, a little bit over. And so these will be corrected before the end of the year. As soon as we get all those jobs paid out, these will be corrected. But you can see that all of our other funds that are reimbursable are at very high percentages. We are going to make sure that everything gets spent down. And so that will be good. And Beth and I worked really hard to make sure we are spending all of our reimbursable funds. A lot of these that are lower amounts, you'll see these do carry over. And so we don't need to worry about those as of right now. Looking down here at our yearly expenditure comparison, I do want to point out a few things here. You'll see that our change was a little bit higher, and I'll go into the details of that when we get into our checklisting report. But you can see that our expenses were higher than last month here. And I do want to let everyone know to expect probably by this month, as long as PED approves it on time, that this will go up significantly as well because we will encumber our elevator and outdoor learning space costs. We have the contract and the quote, and so I did submit to PED for approval because it will be coming out of our capital outlay fund. And so once we get those encumbered, you will see these amounts shoot up, but it is because of that one large expense. I always like to go over our function code change here. This, of course, is showing us how much is being spent in instruction and instructional support. We've stayed really steady all year at about 64 to 65%. You'll see it already went down a little bit to 63% because our maintenance and property and our capital costs are going up a little bit. And so that is where we're going to see the shift when we encumber the elevator as well. Our instructional support percentage is going to go down. But this has been great this year that we haven't had a big capital cost yet because in years past, we have bigger capital costs in the beginning of the year, so it can skew our numbers. This shows us that we have been super consistent in spending in the classroom. And so this is a great analysis before we see those numbers shift to see that we do spend the majority of our money on direct instruction. Looking at our monthly cash balance, our liquidity, we're still sitting at about a 7.36. That's great. The school is very strong in our cash right now. We're very liquid, about 7 months worth of cash on hand to cover any expenses. You, again, will see this drop when we encumber those funds. But as soon as we get the reimbursement, we'll see the cash go back up. But we do have to upfront the money. Any questions thus far? No? Awesome. Our budget analysis, again, this is just a more descriptive version of one of the graphs above. It shows us the percentage spent here. You'll see those few that are a little bit over encumbered here and here. And those will be corrected from the encumbrances here and here. We did not spend our Perkins and our CTE program. We've gone over this a few times. We received budget authority from APS. However, they didn't necessarily give us permission to spend it because they weren't sure if they were going to be able to spend it. They had a lot of compliance issues on their side with PED, and so they did recommend that nobody spend it because there was no guarantee that they would be able to reimburse it. And so it's not a significant amount, but we are hopeful that we will have the funds available again next year and that we will actually be able to spend it next year.
Tammy, I just have a question. Those two funds, do they roll over?
They do not.
Okay.
Yeah, so it is, we do lose the money because it is they are both flow-through grants from APS.
Mhm.
And so we will lose that funding, it reverts to APS, and I'm not sure if APS is spending theirs right now, but they did let us know from the beginning of the year that, don't spend it. You have budget authority, but I wouldn't spend it because there's no guarantee that we'll reimburse it.
Okay.
Good question. Any other questions? I know it's not a significant amount of money, but it's still money and it is frustrating. Beth and I and Martha were just discussing it in the finance committee meeting, but we're thankful that it's not a huge portion of our CTE program. There were a lot of schools that have significant awards that they were not allowed to spend. And so it was, we were able to cover those costs with our operational fund, but not all schools are able to do that.
And Beth also said that there would be the opportunity for new versions of those next year as well. And that APS has been working to get into compliance with PED. So hopefully we'll also be awarded those for next school year and actually be able to use them.
Any other questions on our budget analysis? No? Alrighty, looking at our checklisting, we had a lot of our usual suspects, a lot of monthly reoccurring costs, but I did point out three big things. This first one, our pre-development costs. So this was our first payment to Rachel Matthew for the elevator and the outdoor learning space. This was kind of that, not deposit, but initial amount to get the ball rolling a little bit quicker. And then down here, these are all pretty typical. We did have some travel reimbursements. That's what some of these staff members were for. They went to the adult education conference, and so we reimbursed their travel expenses there. It did come out of our HED fund, not out of operational. Here we have our Nucleo subscription. So this is what they use at MDC for the tablets and the Chromebooks. This did go up a pretty significant amount from last year. However, we were able to use some of our adult ed funding to cover a lot of this cost, specifically our corrections grant, which is where they want to see us spending that money. And so we were actually able to spend $54,000 out of our HED grant to cover, the majority of this cost, which is great because it does typically just come out of operational. And then our next one was the vehicle, which was $64,000. You guys were aware of this one, but this also came out of a special revenue fund. This came out of our Innovation Zone grant, and so it did not come out of operational. We had met with PED to see how we could spend down this fund because we got the award later in the year and we didn't have enough time to get it spent. They recommended buying a vehicle because we are paying for our student interns out of this grant. And they said, do they have any way to get to where they need to go? And we have one vehicle right now and it's a lot of back and forth. And they said, well, you can buy another vehicle out of this grant to help support your program. And so that's what we did. And so again, another big purchase, but it wasn't directly out of operational. But that is why our expenses were higher this month because we did have 3 large purchases. Any questions on any of the other checks? We did have our regular payroll expenses down here at the bottom as well. I always like to point those out. But we'll go ahead and jump through our detailed reports, account summary report showing all of our expenditures line by line. And then we have another account summary report right after it. Here we go. And this is showing all of the revenue we received thus far. Our balance sheet report, so you can see our total cash at the end, and then our statement of revenues, expenditures, and change in fund balance. And again, the total is at the end here. Looking at our bank reconciliation, we do net out here, and we do tie to our bank statement. And then I always like to point out our outstanding checks. We have no stale data checks anymore, so we are current and caught up, which is great. We did clear the check for the one student that was outstanding, and then we did have to reissue this golden forward check as well. And if we come down to the bank statement as of April 30th, we tie out. Any questions on anything that I went over?
Good job.
Awesome, thank you.
All right. And so if we go back to the agenda real quick, Chris, we can see that for our action items, um, then we can approve the accounts and payroll vouchers, but there aren't any bars, and that's because next month we're going to be doing kind of the combined bars. Remind me, Sammy, of what that's called. I just
Bar.
blanked. Yeah, thank you. So do I have a motion to approve accounts and payroll vouchers?
Motion to approve accounts and payroll vouchers.
Thank you, Ben. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Deb. And all in favor?
Aye.
Right. And so we're going to go ahead and table the approval for the bars because there aren't any this month. Do I have a motion to table the approval of the bars?
I move that, go ahead.
Oh,
Tina.
I move to table the approval of the bars.
okay. Thanks, Tina. And a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Deb. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Great. And so before we let you go, Sammy, we're going to talk about the director's contract. So Sammy is still working on that, and she'll have that ready for us during the June meeting. I know that you all got the email from me discussing Beth's updated salary. You still have time if you have comments or questions, feel free to reach out to me about it. But I'm going to let Sammy share a little bit more about the discussion she and Beth had around sustainability with that new salary.
Awesome. Thank you, Martha. So, Beth and I talk, about sustainability pretty much every year around budget season. Anytime we discuss adding positions, specifically around positions. And this year we talked a lot about sustainability when it came to the instructional coach position that we discussed when I presented the budget. And we talked about how in order to sustain the position, because right now we're going to pay for it using cash carryover, we just need to grow a few students, right? And it's not significant of, we need to grow 50 students, 25 students. It's a few students here and there throughout the year is really what's going to create that sustainability. And I asked Beth, can the school do that? Is that something that's reasonable? And she said, absolutely. And there's certain things specifically that we can do to help improve 40th day counts. Our 81 20th day counts are always significantly higher than our 40th day. But if we can hit higher numbers in our 40th day, that's what's really going to help us as well. If we can consistently add those students over 40th day and then our 81 20th day average increases as well, that's what's going to create sustainability. And like I said, it doesn't need to be 20, 50 students, anything like that, just a few each year. And that's what's going to sustain the instructional coach position. And so when, Beth's contract came up, as it does as every year during the budget, we were talking about, an increase in her salary. And it was the same discussion of, I think that based on the work that Beth is doing, this increase is fair as long as we can create that sustainability in our student counts. And we talked about it again, and Beth is very confident that we can increase those small amounts to create sustainability for her position as well as for the instructional coach position. And so that's really where we want to see growth is just in that 40th day specifically, because like I said, our 81 20 day average is always really high. It's much higher than our 40th day. And that's where we'll see growth units come from is in our 40th day, where we just get our flat amount from 80th 120, which is great. And we want that to stay high, but we can get growth units from our 40th day counts. And so that's kind of where for myself when, Martha asked me to consider what we could do and our options, that's where my rationale came from in saying how it can be sustainable is the increase in student count just a little bit each year.
And part of that calculation too is that in the past, we haven't been able to offer students online learning because it wasn't specifically written into our charter. And so after kind of the COVID period ended, we were no longer allowed to have online learning for students because it wasn't specific to our charter. And so now, since we're in the reapplication phase, Beth is planning on putting that directly into the charter because there are students that have not been able to continue with Gordon Burnell because they've needed that type of flexibility of having the online learning. And so even just with that update, I think it should really be able to increase just for those few students that Sammy was noting that we'd need by the 40-day count. So that was another thing that really made us all confident in the sustainability of not only Beth's salary, but all of the salaries and programs at the school.
I could also add in that at MDC, we thought we were going to lose some students because we're restructuring out there as well and getting away from pod walking. But we got approved to have a secondary school pod, and we've got a plan to keep enrollment just exactly the same, if not better, for next year. And the way the jail is cooperating with moves, so we can continuously enroll. I don't see us going down at MDC. I actually see us increasing by a few. So that can make that difference as well.
Nice.
So Martha, or maybe Chris, just out of curiosity, not that it has to do with Beth's salary, but why is it our 40-day counts are lower? Are we just not getting students until later?
I can't really answer that. I'm not 100% sure. That's the best question.
Okay.
Beth and I talked
know
about
that
it
we-
a little bit, and she did say that the timing wise, that students typically enroll more in the spring and kind of the timing of 80 and 120th day versus 40th day. And she will 100% be able to explain it better. But I did ask her that same question because I tell her, our 80, 120th day averages are great. That's where if we can get our 40th day to that count as well, I mean, that's 10, 15 extra students. And that's a huge jump in our SEG for our size, to have 10 to 15 more students. And so her and I did talk about how we can get students in and enrolled by 40th day to be able to produce those numbers. But she can explain it a little bit better. It has to do, I'm trying to remember exactly what she said, but we did discuss why, and it made sense of it's just when students, I think it's students trying at other schools in the beginning and then not being successful and going and trying something new. And that's where we see that kind of change.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Okay.
given our population, they're not, an alarm bell doesn't go off in July like, oh, it's time to enroll. They enroll when they're ready to enroll. It's not because it's a new school year.
Yeah.
And so I would think that our enrollment is more or less even throughout the year because we've been getting quite a few students since the last count. That doesn't count at all really for the counts or for our
Right.
funding.
Yeah.
But they
Exactly.
continue to enroll. I enrolled, we're enrolling like 5 or 6 new MDC students in the last 2 weeks. And it's, nearly the end of the year.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Thank you.
So Sammy, it sounds like what we're talking about is we need to figure out how to retain those kids that we get in the middle of the year. I know that other high schools, regular Albuquerque high school kinds of places, really do this big push to make sure their students show up for the 40th day. And then unfortunately, what they do is they don't care if they stay. So that's why we do them after the 40th day. It's just a fact of public school life, I think.
Yeah. There are a lot of schools that do 40th day incentives, just to get the students there. And then once they get the count, it's not as much pressure to keep them. Even though 80 and 120th day is super important too, but it's those growth units, really for 40th day. That's where we get growth units, and those can be significant.
I have a question. Just out of curiosity, do you have a sense of how many students are interested or want online learning? Is that you'd mentioned?
Well,
That's
enough for us to start, add that into the restructuring for next year.
uh-huh.
We did have quite a few interested, but we just didn't have that sort of programming at North Forth. And so we had to turn some students down, or not that we turned them down, but it wasn't right for them. So enough for us to put something into place for next year and have a staff member dedicated to that.
Yeah, it seems like that would definitely help the numbers.
Yeah. Beth didn't she didn't tell me exactly how many, but she did say that there were a few students that were recommended to us by another school, and
Mhm.
we did have to turn them away because they're atypical students who could not come on campus, and they needed an online program, an online platform, and we couldn't offer that.
Mhm.
But I know a lot of schools that are very successful with the virtual students, who are similar to our model. And so
Right. I
they
know of
are
some as well. Yes, I know of
they
some
are
as well.
we have much more success getting students in if they can, they can say, I can't go to school, from 8 to
Mhm.
5. I
Mhm.
can't be
Mhm.
there for classes, but I can do my work at night, or I can do my work on the weekends,
Right.
that
I think
kind
it
of
would be.
stuff. But just because it's not a part of our charter right now is why we
Uh-huh.
can't do it. And so
Uh-huh.
with the recharter, we've already talked about it. We got to make sure that that verbiage is in there so
I
that
think it's a great idea. I think it's going to be very helpful.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And any other questions for Sammy about sustainability or the proposed new salary for Beth? All right. So we'll go ahead then and table the approval for the director's contract for next month. And then, of course, like once we see the contract, we can always ask more questions, have comments. Do I have a motion to approve the tabling of the director's contract?
I move that we table the approval of director's contract until next month.
I
Thank you,
second.
Deb. And thank you, Ben, for the second. And all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, we have tabled the approval of the director's contract until next month. So thank you so much, Sammy, for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next month as well.
Thank you,
Course.
Sammy.
No problem. Of course, if anyone ever has questions, you can always email me or reach out to me too. I'm happy to jump on a call if you guys ever need, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. And thanks, Chris, for showing the agenda. I'm going to go ahead and switch over to me sharing for just a little bit as we work on board priorities. So let's go ahead and take a look. So under our yearly strategic plan, this is also kind of where I took notes during our board training. So let's see if I can get it a little bit larger for you guys. Okay. So we've gone through all of our initial goals for the data dives. Um, we still wanted to look more into the needs assessment and panorama data review, so we'll continue to follow up with that, and then obviously the performance framework that we're going to look at in June. So we're on track there. And the next one that we still have a little work to do on is recruitment and retention. Obviously, we're at a full board of 7 members right now, which is great. But trying to put together more of a succession plan. And I actually just got a template of a succession plan from Kelly, who's one of our trainers.
Mhm.
So I can pull that up in a second to take a look at that as well. And that's something that the nominating committee could look at and start filling out and present by the July meeting. So we're fairly on track there. Um, And then the 5-year strategic plan, again, that was something that we worked on up until December. Beth and I talked about whether it needed to be approved or not, and it's not necessarily formal policy, so we just decided it can be a living document that we refer to, so it didn't really need a formal approval. So some of our action items, we really did look through the bylaws during the training, and I took notes on the things that we had found that we needed to update. So we'll look at those in a moment. One of the things we still need to work on quickly during this meeting is um, there were a couple sections that we thought would be helpful to move around slightly. So I kind of wanted the board's help on what they thought might be a better flow. Um, but the green things are things I went ahead and changed. And like I said, Kelly sent me the succession planning. One of the things we can plan on for a future meeting is we still wanted to take a look at Beth's succession plan. Um, and then creating our own board succession plan. Um, this one was something for our website, so we'll have to look at that with Beth at another time. Um, okay, and then a reminder that on the agendas, we'll kind of put a blanket statement that we have in the bylaws. We'll match those up because it does have a time limit for comment, and also noticing that the board will hear but not necessarily respond or answer questions from folks if they're coming for public comment. All right, so let's take a look at some of those edits I made, and we can see if there's anything else to put in there. And if folks have questions or comments along the way, please let me know. I sent this out too, so if it's easier to pull it up on your own computer, you're welcome to do that. The main things that we were cleaning up in here were things that were dates or month specific that we didn't want to be out of compliance with if we didn't follow those dates specifically. And then just a few little tweaks. So mission statement is updated, equal opportunity, laws and policies, those were all in compliance. We didn't really need to change anything there. Our council policy, powers, responsibilities are all the same. If there is something though that you see that we didn't get during the training, please let me know and we can update it. The first thing here was this February 1st when we're talking about council membership. We just sort of more of have rolling recruitment and induction. And so we're going to go ahead and erase the February 1st. Does that sound good to everyone?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and accept that change there. Same here with like the nominating committee, to try and nominate before March 1st. And so my proposal here was just to say like each school year the council shall form a nominating committee of 2 or more members. The reason why I didn't keep the 3 was that, say we were down to a 5-member board, a 3-member nominating committee would be a quorum, which is difficult to have to, follow the Open Meetings Act and post that, publicly the board is meeting and things like that. It just makes it cumbersome for scheduling meetings. So how do you all feel about just keeping it open to 2 or more members?
I'm okay.
Me too.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
It's a good idea.
Hmm.
Okay. So I'll go ahead and accept those. And oops, I wonder if it did. Oh, there we go. There we go. Thanks. And then, just kind of the other things here. Okay. Those. And then the next thing was, again, that the nominating committee would be presenting candidates to the council no later than April 1st. So I just replaced it with on a rolling basis. How does that sound to everyone?
Good.
Good.
Okay. Um, this was also date related, and so if a candidate is presented, I just said to be held at the following GC meeting rather than a specific month.
Yes, I'm good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Same thing with like getting rid of the April. Okay. Um, this one just at a council meeting, the council shall vote to approve or disapprove rather than a specific month.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Um, and down here, when we were talking about attendance and notifying the director, and I went ahead and added or the governance council president, because I think that's sort of been our practice is, either letting Beth or myself know. I don't think it needs specifically to be Beth. It can be myself as well. How do you all feel about that?
Good.
Fine.
Good.
Okay. Yeah, and then I also just added it. It was kind of in the language again, notifying in case of emergency. Um, okay. And then here I just said notify either in a timely manner rather than repeating.
Mhm, mhm.
Okay. Um, and then going to like the attendance. So previously there would have been a couple of graduations per year because was a community graduation both in December and in June, as well as an MDC graduation in December as well as June. And so the bylaws said that each council member must attend at least one graduation ceremony per year. But now that we only have one per year, you know, I want to make sure that we're in compliance as much as possible with the bylaws. And so making it a little bit more flexible language. I know that people really do attend graduations if they are able, depending on their jobs, vacation schedules, things like that. So changing that language to is highly encouraged to attend at least one graduation ceremony. That way people don't feel pressured if they have other commitments during that scheduled time. But we know that we try to get as many board members as possible, and it's also one of the most fun parts of being a board member. How does that sound?
That
I
sounds
like it.
good.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Conflict of interest. So this is where we started to get into um, wanting to reformat some of the bylaws in terms of um, replacing board members or um, if board members leave. It was a little bit muddled when we were going through it. Just simple things here. We're just capitalizing all of the committees for consistency. So I'll go ahead and just approve those really quickly. So it was like the committee was capitalized and the others weren't. Here was just like a little comma difference that I did. And there's the nominating committee replaced. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So I think this was a note from last time that we didn't take out, and that's why I noticed it there. Oops. To be correct. Okay. Um, maybe it was later that it was sort of the organization. We'll find that in just a second. Um, instead of having the council in June, I changed some of the language to hold an annual organizational meeting during a regular council meeting at the beginning of the school year. So that way it's like flexible, if it happens in August or September, I think that's fine. Um, and, you know, council positions to be elected include president, vice president, and secretary. Um, I added vice president in there because it seems like that would be a really beneficial role, and we also haven't really filled positions of vice president and secretary in the past. So moving forward, I think that would be something beneficial for the group. How do folks feel about these changes here?
I like that.
Mhm.
Most council members are, no, most board members have at least those three positions designated. Is that probably true?
Yeah, I would say that most boards probably have those.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think just in terms of, again, going back to the like board recruitment and sustainability and plans for future, having a vice president would be smart in terms of having somebody to kind of take over once it's time for the president to step down.
Mhm.
Um, so I think kind of getting us into that mode of having a few other responsible parties. I know it has been really nice. We've been flexible, especially, when I was out for 3 months, other people stepped in. But just kind of having a few folks feel like they're in that position to
Yeah.
lead. Any other questions or thoughts for that one?
I thought we did have vice president before Martha, so I'm fine with it.
Okay. Yeah, and it might be one of those things, since we had revised these in 2023, it might have been something that, got deleted by accident in editing or who knows. So, yeah. Okay. So I'll go ahead and accept those changes there. Um, the next thing was for our regular council meetings that we had specified third Thursday of the calendar month. And so taking that out, so that in the future, should we need to change the cadence, we don't have to update the bylaws. Um, so it just scheduled for each calendar month. Everybody okay with that one?
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
Okay. The other thing here is that like held at a publicly accessible location and or an online meeting platform. The reason why I added this one is, obviously there was exceptions during COVID, but there have been a few times when we've all met online. And so I wanted to have that in there. And obviously the link is posted publicly for the public as well. Any ideas or suggestions for that addition?
No, it's good.
I like it.
Mhm.
Okay. Um, Council agenda, all those rules still apply. Okay, maybe it was getting close to that area of moving things around. Um, this was where I'll ask Beth to start copy pasting this into the public comment section of the agenda, just so that it's clear that when somebody does decide to come and make public comment, that they are limited to 3 minutes and it has to be relating to an action item that's already on the agenda. Um, the other thing that we noted is that during our training, we were given the suggestion that we'll hear public comment, but will not respond to or answer questions at that time. Does that phrase sound okay? Is there anything else that I should add in there or change?
Perfect.
Yeah,
I
agree.
agree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and this one I was just correcting a comma because they had a semicolon there. Okay. Yeah, so that's something we'll start adding to the agenda. We haven't had public comment yet, but it's always good to have just in case. Yeah, and also that then this part about the complaint about individual employees is a great addition. All right. And policy adoption. Okay, we talked about this during the training that it was a little bit confusing because it almost made it seem that Beth was not allowed to introduce new policies.
Oh,
And
that's
so we
right. Yeah,
suggested
I remember
just
that.
cutting that very first sentence, so that instead it may originate with council member, advisors, committees, Staff, students, civics group, parents may request that the council member or the director sponsor a proposed policy. So here it's saying that the director can also sponsor policies.
And we talked
Yeah.
about this one at length. I support this.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I agree.
So nothing else needs to be done besides just cutting that first sentence.
Yes, correct.
Okay. All right. Then okay, we'll have to go back. I'll look at my notes again for what needed to be moved around. Um, the only thing I added here was just that, if we do approve it today, the date will be there. If we decide to table it for some reason, we can always update that. So I just updated the dates there. I also added another signature line because we have a board of 7. So let's see. So on my notes from our discussion during the training, um, it was cleanup, recall, and removal for better flow and the vacancies section. So let's go back so it's before number 12, I guess. Mhm. Committees, nepotism, deliberations. Okay, so yeah, so general principles, conflict of interest. Why am I not finding them real quick? Sorry, does anybody else remember where that section was of the bylaws of like vacancies and
I thought it was closer to the top.
yeah, okay. Okay, maybe here under membership, term limits, nominating committee, contested, uncontested, restrictions, removal. Okay, so we have, obviously restricting council members who are, employees of Gordon Burnell or spouses, family members. Then we go to automatic removal of certain council members. And then termination of the contractor status. But then we have recall, and then down here, vacancies. Does anybody have a suggestion of how we should move those around then? I think it was just because it's confusing that we had, the vacancies down here. Um, and then removal comes again down here.
Okay.
Is it something that we should put, and then here was filling vacancy upon removal. Um,
Further up, is there right where it says vacancies? Can we
mhm.
do all of that under vacancies and just kind of do like subcategories?
So having the removal or filling vacancy under the other vacancy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess the reason why it's confusing though is like filling vacancy upon removal
Right,
and not
exactly. That
Oh,
is
filling
confusing.
a
See, that's
vacancy
confused. That's a
plain.
different, yeah, that's a little bit apple orange, but
um,
Yeah.
Also, can you scroll
Um,
down? Because it kind of
yeah.
addresses removal there. So what new thing is added here? Let's see.
Yeah, because
That's redundant in my opinion because it already says above that it will be filled in the mode of the election process above or something like that. It already says that above, so this seems redundant almost. You know what I mean?
It
should we
does.
just go ahead and delete
Um,
filling a
so
vacancy upon
just so
removal?
everybody understands, you see right there,
Like the first sentence,
shall be filled in the same manner as other vacancies on the governance council are filled. Okay, so it basically says you go through the normal process. Now, Martha, if you could please scroll up
Hmm.
to the vacancies portion.
Mhm.
So it says right there, in the event that will be filled by
Removal, yeah.
Because it says
It says
resignation.
removal there.
removal by vote of the council will be filled by majority vote. Da, 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 in the I mean,
Okay. So
so I
that
think it's
that
redundant.
makes sense. So just go ahead and delete this.
Delete
And
down.
is everybody okay with that one?
Yes.
so down here where it says they won't be eligible for 2 years, does it say that up above?
It doesn't. Should we go ahead and add that in there?
I think, I mean, if that's what we're sticking with, I think maybe cutting and pasting that up there.
Okay.
I would agree. That's the one non-redundant part.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully this clause is never evoked.
Okay. Um, okay. Yeah.
Well, and then
That's good.
should we move the as used in the section regular meeting? Shouldn't we put that up there under attendance?
Um,
Yes, I think so. I think it makes more sense.
Because that just sits there all by itself.
Yeah, it makes more sense to put it there.
mhm.
I think so.
Okay. Okay. That look okay to everyone?
I think so.
Yeah.
Let me correct these so it looks a little less cluttered, and then we can kind of go through the order and make sure it makes sense. Okay. So elected positions, appointed positions, restrictions, automatic removal, recall of elective council members, vacancies. So now it's just all in one there. Attendance, attendance in the graduation. Oops. Um, removal
Yeah.
from council. Um,
Mm.
so in terms of like the removal from council, should that go? I feel like it should go somewhere more by the recall
Mhm.
or vacancies. Maybe it should go after the recall and before the vacancies, because then you know what it means to remove someone before you get to the vacancies. Would that make sense?
Makes sense for the attendance to go first to me, and then the other exceptions to the rule. I don't know, maybe not.
The attendance is kind of more important than the
Yeah,
vacancies.
I
Okay.
think so. The others are kind of an exception. I don't know. I think
Okay.
attendance should go first, but that's just my.
Um, so first, so we
So
get to term.
election, you have election and then maybe attendance and then kind of the exceptions to the rule. I don't know.
So maybe, and then we have uncontested
Yeah,
elected
yeah,
positions.
that's what I
Um,
think makes more sense.
how does everybody feel like putting attendance between E and F, or should it even go before we're talking about elected positions and nominating maybe like term limits and attendance?
I
Yeah,
think Yeah,
I
I
think
think
I think
so.
that makes more sense personally.
Because it does seem like more
Yeah, I mean,
need to
yes,
attend before
exactly,
graduating.
exactly. Yeah.
Um, so keeping attendance at a graduation committee there also
Yeah, attendance
right
is
next to it.
attendance.
I
Keep it
think
together.
so.
Do you think we should put like, does it need to be its own little section or can it go under the attendance? Now that we've also kind of made it less of a rule that you have to attend graduation.
I think it should be under attendance.
Can you put it as like a number one? So it's separate from the
Sure.
meetings?
Mm-hmm. So if we did,
Something strongly, yeah. I mean, attendance at the meetings is, I mean, not mandatory, but then the next one for graduation strongly suggested or whatever, and then
Mhm.
maybe I'll have to accept these and see. I don't know if it'll let me. Okay, there we go.
It says Gordon Bennell Graduation Committee. It should say ceremony.
Yeah, thank
yeah,
you.
that's a better choice of words. I agree.
Okay. Okay. So we're gonna go ahead and move attendance up. And we'll put it here. So positions on council, term limits, and so between term limits and nominating committee.
I think so.
Yeah.
So now I don't know if it's going to follow the same. How does this look here with the one? Is there anything else we should do differently there, or does it look okay? Or we should just have it as a separate like paragraph.
I think it's okay. I don't have any needs of one.
I
Since
think
we
it's
say
good
it
there
above,
because I mean you're saying it's highly encouraged.
Yeah.
That's it. I don't think that
Yeah.
warrants its own
Right.
paragraph. And at the end of the
Right.
day, this isn't supposed to read like a novel. You're just supposed to be able to find it, you know? And
and
so
you
I
said
think this
above,
serves that, you know.
and
Yeah.
you already moved that part that says as used in this section, regular meeting means blah, 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 blah. And now we've got this other attendance one. It's fine the way it is. It doesn't
Yeah.
need a time.
I agree.
And so now that that isn't like a title line, should we just say attendance at Gordon Burnell Charter School graduation ceremony is highly
Encouraged or
encouraged
yeah.
um, for each board member, maybe,
Yeah.
Yes. Exactly. Perfect.
or governance council member.
Yeah, whatever. I think it's council is what we've been calling it.
Oh, yeah.
Or governance council, man. Try to be consistent. Governance
Yeah.
council.
Yeah. I agree. I agree.
I think because we've been saying the council, so you can see here
Yeah.
it's the council
Yeah.
capitalized. So
Yeah.
for each council member. And oh, okay. Attendance at I'll just say at a graduation
Yeah.
ceremony
Perfect.
because there are two,
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
least two.
I
So
think that's good.
It is good. Yeah. I agree.
okay. Um, all right, and then we get into nominating committee. It's it's strange in terms of like why we have nominating committees separate here
Uh-huh.
when like we
Yeah.
also definitely need a finance committee and an audit committee. I don't know if we need this here.
Where does it talk about committees?
Yeah. There you
Um,
go. Good
yeah,
question.
there was some place where I think it was further down where I had like capitalized each of them. So let me
Yes.
find.
Oh, wait. Where's election committee? Hold on. Oh, just a minute. Sorry. Yeah, hold on. Oh, was there
Yeah.
election committee under nominating? Can you scroll?
Yeah, I
Hold
can
on.
go back.
Oh,
Sorry, this is a little bit
sorry,
extra.
sorry.
Council committees.
Okay.
The council may establish standing committees, which may consist of council members and non-council members. And so standing committees of the council shall include a finance committee, audit
Okay.
committee, and nominating committee.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, and so that was where, it really specified at least those three.
Mhm.
Um, so I don't know why nominating committee would be separate. So that was on
It is.
11. Okay. How about we put that underneath the nominating committee? We'll put under the committees section.
Okay. That sounds
Yeah.
like it flows
That
better.
makes sense.
I think so. I think it does.
Because I mean, if it gives this definition of
Yeah.
what the
Yeah.
nominating committee is, I mean, shouldn't we also have one for finance and
Yes.
auditing?
Yeah.
Okay. And just approve this one.
Hmm.
Okay. All right. So going down to 11. Okay. And this could just be advisories. I think it should go in between here to explain what the nominating committee is.
Okay.
Hmm.
Um, how about we say like each school year the council shall form a nominating committee, uh, finance committee, and an audit committee. Let's check our wording if they say yeah, I'll just audit. Okay. Of two or more members each.
Okay.
But
Does
we
that
don't,
sound okay?
but we
Yeah.
don't, we don't have two members on our finance committee.
We do though, so it would be myself and
Oh, the
Sabah.
president plus, okay.
Yeah.
And then it should follow with what each committee
Does.
their role. Yes, correct.
Okay. Um, and I'm wondering then, if, that takes a little, I know that we have kind of time to work through this in our meeting, but if it would
Yeah.
be more productive, should I go ahead and work on that wording, send it out to everybody, then people can have time to really look through it. We can kind of double check for things, and then we could approve them for the next meeting. How do
Yeah,
you
that's
feel about that?
probably a good idea.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Those are
Yeah.
things we're required. There's wording that since it is a standing committee and we're required to have those, there's that wording that we get from PED. Anyway, Martha, maybe you can just cut and paste that in.
Okay. Let me write that note for myself. So, um, wording from PED.
Yeah, let's not reinvent that wheel.
Yeah. Okay. So let me go ahead and then just accept these. Let's take a quick look at how our order went, if there's anything else here. Okay, so positions, term limit, attendance,
Attendance, yeah.
election of contested, uncontested elections, restrictions on members, automatic removal, recall, vacancies, removal from council. Um,
Is, okay. Is
So,
automatic removal and removal, is there redundancy there or maybe not? I don't know. No? No. Okay.
um,
Are
I,
those different?
yeah,
I thought we
automatic
did-
removal of certain council members. Um,
Okay.
is more of like, if an executive director leaves
Okay. Okay.
or a contractor, like if
Okay.
it can't
Okay.
be
So
like
they're different. Okay.
I guess, yeah.
so Martha, in those sections that we messed with where we move things around, I think you're going to have to either re-letter or number because they're
Yeah,
a little out of
that
order.
was that was the other thing too, that it's in
Oh, I see. Yeah.
this document maybe originally was in Word, and so
Yeah.
that's another thing that I can go through and reorder those, so we don't need to do that online together. But yeah. Okay. But that was a big chunk where I wasn't sure how we should reorder it.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate everybody's help on that. Anything else with the reordering there that still needs to get moved around or merged?
I think we've got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Um, that's great. I'm glad that we were able to workshop this a little bit today. So I'll reorder those numbers. I'll add in kind of descriptions for the Finance and Audit Committee. Send it back out to everyone. You can have some time to look at it and read through, make sure we didn't have any typos anywhere else. And then for our June meeting, that'll just be a quick approval.
Okay.
How's that sound to everybody?
Good.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Cool.
So then we
Um,
need, so Martha, do we need then to have approval of tabling it?
yeah,
We
we'll
can
we'll do
totally
that
update it.
just now. Yeah. Let's and welcome back, Beth. I wasn't looking at the
Yeah.
folks there. All right. Do I have a motion to table the approval? Sorry, I can't speak today. Table the approval of the updated board bylaws.
We're so funny. I approve I approve. I move to table the approval of the updated board bylaws until next month.
All right. Thank you, Deb. Do I have a second?
I second.
Good, good.
Thanks, Ben. All in favor?
I
Aye.
Great. So that'll be an easy one for next month. And what I can also do is send a copy of the kind of process for um, making sure the board has enough members and planning through for sustainability that Kelly sent me those kind of forms. The other thing too is Beth and I are gonna look and see if we can get our results from the self-assessment that we did back in um, March. But just as a real quick, we can revisit that. I'll share my screen one more time. Um, if there are areas we can start thinking of for goals for next year. So this was the assessment that we all took in March. And so knows our key charter promises. I think one of the things is that since we are writing the reapplication, it'll be a really good opportunity for us to know, the new key charter promises. I think overall we rated ourselves like fairly high on that one. And I know that we had new board members as well, so that's fine.
Mhm.
We all had really high scores for the mission and vision. Um, the board understands how we measure the charter promises. So that's again linked to the key promises. So that's something that we can continue to work on with the new application. Um, Job description has roles and responsibilities. We have kind of that one page cheat sheet. So I think we're pretty good there. Um, uh, individual performance expectations that we're going through the bylaw now, that they're kind of explained there, and we're making sure that we're following them or editing where we need to be. Um, we all thought we had a nice sized board. We can have a good quorum with still a few folks missing.
Mm.
Yeah, we've talked about the differences between governance and management and feel like we have a good balance in that relationship with Beth and other leadership. That we rated ourselves on having a strong partnership with Beth, well attended, focus on the agenda.
Yeah.
This one in the bylaws, it does have a process for chronic non-attendance or underperforming. It's not something we've ever had to address, so I think we rated ourselves fairly highly on that one. We all rated ourselves highly on having schools' financial health in firm grasp.
Mm.
It's focus time. Um, we've talked about how we've gotten better at using academic achievement data, and it's something that we're going to continue to work on. Um, I think here, when we're talking about having formal tools and measures in place to measure organizational performance, that's something where we might have been like, well, we're not sure if we have tools, but in some ways now with creating strategic plans, having structured agendas that guide our board meetings, all contribute to that. Let's see. We've in the last couple of years started establishing board goals for ourselves and going over them in meetings. So I think we've improved there. Um, yeah, we've started doing annual evaluations. It's usually through the training, which I think is a good time to do that. The one thing we're going to continue to work on is succession plan. Um, from the training when folks were filling out their own surveys, because I know we went over kind of our ratings together briefly. Were there any other comments or questions that folks wanted to bring up for the evaluation or areas that you really think we need to focus on for coming years? Okay. Yeah, and if you do think of areas that we need to continue to improve on, we'll plan on before the next school year creating new yearly strategic goals. So you can always chime in then if you're like, oh, when we were rating ourselves, I really didn't know about this, or I think we should focus more on that.
I have to say it again. I'm sorry to interrupt. But I've never been liked being on a board because I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And so I've talked to other people about this board and I said, they've got this extensive training and they're all of them are going, oh, I would love to be on a board like that. It actually has training on how to be a board member. Are you kidding me? I mean, it's extraordinary. Sorry. Just giving thumbs up on that.
Thank you,
So
Sandy.
yeah.
Appreciate that. Yeah. All right. So welcome back, Beth. I'll let you jump in and share about the meeting that you're at, or also the director's report we could briefly go over. But then after that, that's pretty much our business for the day.
Yeah, I appreciate the flexibility and grace in my absence. We actually were able to secure some time with PED leadership around this accountability framework and our restructuring application. It didn't go exactly as we had hoped, but whatever does, right? We had given Public Charter Schools of New Mexico arranged the meeting on behalf of New Mexico RESA, which are the re-engagement schools who are trying to advocate against some changes. The PD invited several, Deputy Secretary LaBelle invited several other department heads. and maybe not necessarily the right ones. So there was quite a bit of defensiveness, especially from Priority School Bureau, who thought our concern was with how they're implementing the law or the statute or the regulation, and that isn't our wasn't what we're trying to get at. We find that the supports provided by Priority School Bureau are we consider them allies. They do our site visits, they do the professional development, and they're also in charge of this application. And so that leadership came in real hot and heavy, and it took us a good chunk of the meeting to just reestablish relationship and kind of lower the temperature a little bit. That our concern and our advocacy wasn't against their work, but more geared towards the inequity of the accountability measure to begin with. I almost have them ready. One of the other schools is putting together these amazing infographics that just show it is mathematically impossible for us to exit designation. We enrolled 300. Oh, I don't want to get the number wrong, and it just 363, I think, is the number of students that we enrolled this year, the entire year. So we have a lot of mobility, right? We don't have that many students at one time, but we did enroll 363 students this year, and 56% of them are at enrollment were already aged out of their cohort. So there was 0% possible to get credit for them graduating, even if every single one of them graduated. And then the remaining 46% possibly were in this cohort or a future cohort. But we will never get full credit for them either, because we don't enroll 14 and 15-year-old true freshmen. We don't take them until they're 16. So even if we graduated every single one of them, we'd have to share the credit with the schools that they attended where they started before they got us, because there's a shared accountability model. So there's this really amazing infographic, and I'll send it out. I'll make sure that I share it with you. It'll be one of our advocacy tools that we will never reach 67% graduation rate in a 4-year cohort if we graduated every single individual that enrolled with us. And that's problematic, right? And that's what we were trying to share, that the accountability measure, it just doesn't capture what we're doing. So we're not failing at what we're trying to do, but we can't be successful at that metric. The defense, again, it was a very tense meeting. Some people at PED felt very strongly, and maybe rightly so, that they were not the right people to have the conversation with. We didn't invite them, PED did. We just asked for the time. So, you know, the line still is the feds won't budge. But there is a growing amount in terms of we have to use these metrics and these consequences based on our comprehensive state plan under ESSA, the Every Student Succeeds Act, which is federal law and is approved by the Federal Education Department. But there is a growing body of evidence that suggests that many other states are submitting waivers and they're being approved. And so it's really hard for me to swallow the feds won't let us when we're actively watching other states get approved. What is in state law is that schools have to be identified very specifically. What is in our state plan is how those schools are treated and what the consequences are. And so we're not asking to be identified any differently. It's fine to identify us as someone who doesn't graduate a minimum of 67% of our 4-year cohort students, which we don't even have. But the state, there are other states who have plans that have been approved. And so it's difficult to in a very quick meeting to say liar, liar, pants on fire, your telephone wire. And that's not necessarily the approach that any of us want to take. We all want to walk in partnership with PED and greatly appreciate their respect and their support. It's a start. It was a meeting with Deputy Secretary LaBelle and several department heads. They said in the meeting that they recognize what we're doing. There was one comment that I made that said, well, you have nothing to worry about because we know the great work you're doing and we're the ones that are going to approve your application anyway. And my response to that was, I do feel like their messaging has real consequences for us. I went to the last APS board meeting, summoned to review my MRI status, and those board members were uneducated about why they had schools below a 67% graduation rate. And so my only comment in the meeting was that while I feel supported by individuals at PED and I feel supported by departments at PED, their messaging that we're failing is harmful. And it does trickle down to stakeholders, and it is unappreciated because it makes my job all that harder to reauthorize and to advocate for our successes. And I think they heard that. Other people had other comments. That was the only time I spoke up, but it's a step in a direction. This same group of New Mexico Reza members is growing. We've had 3 or 4 schools join us in the last week or two from around the state, and I think that will continue. Our next mission is to get before the LFC interim committee, who recently released a report on disenfranchised youth in the state. And so it's a process. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to participate in that conversation. In terms of the director's report, I think a lot of it was informational. If you guys have any questions or anything I can elaborate on, I'm happy to. But I don't feel the need to point out anything unless you all have questions or would like to engage in a little more conversation.
Thank you, Beth. I just wanted to note that, again, I find it so helpful to look through the Monday morning memos each month. Especially, I noticed this time there was a notice around having mentors for new teachers. And that was a part of our recent director's evaluation that the committee wasn't sure we had. And so we, kind of put the rating a little bit lower and put a note that, okay, we need to ask Beth because we weren't sure. So that was just a point of like, oh, there's a lot that's going on at the school that you can find out from the Monday morning memos. And it just helps us as a board be effective and then supporting school and staff and leadership and knowing what's going on. So just a quick reminder to take a look at those. And anything else from the director's report that folks might have? Yeah, Deb.
I like that you started using the term disenfranchised youth because I hadn't seen that before. There was a huge article on the front page of the Albuquerque Journal. It's something like 39,000 children between the ages of 15 and 30 or something, 25, are not working and they're not in school. And so part of our mission, if they would just let it be, is to enfranchise those youth. And I really appreciated you using that wording.
Yeah, I took that right from the LMC study, and I'm capture. It's good to capture vocabulary.
Yeah, I appreciated that too because it also gives us that vocabulary.
Agree.
Great.
That's all. I like the director support. It was short too. I like that too.
Good. All right. Quick reminders. Wednesday, June 3rd at 10 a.m. is the MDC graduation. And Beth, we had a few people that asked for clearance or getting that organized, right?
Yes, Ben, Deb, and Cynthia have all RSVP'd. I will encourage you, if you haven't already, look for Erica's email.
Yeah.
An email. She's looking for your driver's license so she can get you cleared. But yeah, super excited to have 3 board members scheduled to attend that. So looking forward to it.
And also Erica's email, which I didn't read until today, talks about attire and things like that I hadn't even thought about.
Closed-toed shoes, covered shoulders,
heels too.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, geez, that's going to be problematic.
So anyway, take a look at that.
Holy cow!
Until today.
Yeah, and then
sprained ankle.
Sprained ankle, me.
And then the community graduation is Friday, June 5th at
Right.
2 p.m.
Right. Right.
So looking forward to seeing folks at either or both.
Yeah.
Our next board meeting is June 18th. Oh yeah, and Erica said a few APS charter folks will be attending, so that's great. All right. Any other announcements before we end the meeting?
No.
Good. All right. Thank you again for all of your time. Do I have a motion to adjourn today's Gordon Burnell Charter School Governance Council meeting at 5:26 p.m.?
I motion to adjourn.
All right. Thank you, Ben. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Deb. And all in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. We have adjourned today's meeting at 5:26 p.m. Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
Martha.
And
All right,
see you
thanks.
soon.
Have a good long week.